Welcome back. Let's move on to the next category of the Indian of the Year Awards 2024, which is social change. Straight away, going across to our nominees in this category, the first nominee for Indian of the Year 2024 Social Change is Women in Cinema Collective. This platform has been in the news for being the voice for the welfare of women artists in Malayalam film industry. It is this platform and its petition that led to the setting up of the HEMA committee by the Kerala government to look into allegations of sexual exploitation, discrimination, drug illegal bans and alcohol abuse and wage disparity in the film industry. So that's the first big nominee in the category of social change. Moving on to our second nominee, this is Tatwashil Kamble and Ashok Tangre. The two whistleblowers, both from Bid in Maharashtra, they used WhatsApp network to put an end to child marriages in their village and surrounding villages. Together, they've stopped over 3,000 child marriages so far. Up next is Palak Muchal. The renowned playback singer has been funding free heart surgeries for underprivileged children through her initiative, Saving Little Hearts. She sponsors surgeries for children battling heart ailments. So that's Palak there putting her money to a good cause. Next up is Adhik Kadam. Very interesting once again. It's a young man from Maharashtra who's given a home and education as well to daughters of militants killed in encounters, terrorists killed in encounters in Kashmir. The girls had no other place to go to in this deeply patriarchal society of the valley, and Adhik has been nothing less than a father figure for all these young girls. And the last nominee in the category of Social Change Indian of the Year Awards 2024 is Lalji Bhai Prajapati from Kutch region in Gujarat, visually impaired. His Shri Navchetan Adhanjan Mandal supports over 500 abandoned senior citizens and disabled individuals in Gujarat. Both our experts continue to stay on with us. Vidlendu, if I can quickly come to you and really take a first comment on what do you make of this list. Social change, of course, spoken of, and it's always welcome in a country like ours and elsewhere. What is your first assessment?
I think it's a very, very interesting mix because there are two kinds of issues, social issues that this list actually addresses. One is the normal issues of abandonment and poverty and distress that is there, as So when we look at the work that Lalji Bhai is doing, or for that matter, Palak, so we're looking at disadvantaged or communities that don't have resources, and that's where you actually take some bit of support and resources. So that's one kind of work, and the other kind of work is actually a little bit of radical work which needs social change, and that's where Women in Cinema Collective comes. So it's not a very status quoist kind of work. It's not a project in that sense. It is something that actually shakes the system. And look at the impact of the work of Women in Cinema Collective in the last couple of months. So many people have actually got justice in the sense, or there's at least hope for justice for several women in this country, at least in Kerala and Kerala film industry. So I would say that it's a very, very interesting mix. So there are people who are actually, being innovative, as in the work that Adhik Kadam is doing, as in who would have thought that someone from Maharashtra, which is largely, very, very patriotic, and of course people are patriotic from all around the country. Yeah. But imagine a Kadam from Maharashtra is taking care of children from the valley in that sense. So I don't know how. I want to compliment your team. How do you discover such gems and such amazing rock stars in this category as well?
Abhinash, speaking of Adhik, he's absolutely right, because his Janmbhoomi was actually Maharashtra, his Karm Bhoomi is Jammu and Kashmir, and handpicked at that. And it was, when he was pursuing political science, that interest in Jammu and Kashmir and politics around him that actually led to this great initiative. He's the father to more than 200 daughters of terrorists who were slain by forces in encounters. Lalji Bhai, another example, having lost his vision at 17, he founded this organization, supports over 500 abandoned senior citizens. So not all of them are coming from a place of experience. Some have actually taken up a cause sympathizing with something that they really thought needed change.
Absolutely. Something we call it as ethical leadership, and all of these nominations actually link it to ethical leadership. A cause or a call, the heart went out for, and then you start working one after the other, because you yourself have witnessed a lot of these issues in some form, and you don't want anyone else to be deprived of. And that's how you start creating or putting that first stone for changing it, and that change leads to bigger change. And now what, Bimlendu, I kind of completely second that. Your team has done a fabulous work in terms of bringing the spectrum of nominations that you have. Absolutely, each of them in true sense are winners, because what they have tried achieving is bringing or moving that needle from margins to mainstream, and that moving of the needle has also helped give hope, and a lot of hope in terms of despair for millions, in terms of, yes, we can also steal some of our facts, some of our causes, and which are dear to our heart, and then start working around them in spite of all of those challenges.
What's your take on Palak, for instance? Because she, I believe, has also been able to bust the myth around, philanthropy comes to those who enjoy a certain privilege. She had this idea of, supporting these young children with their heart surgeries much before she had a certain hits next to her name, right? She's a playback singer, but in June this year, she's funded the 3,000th heart surgery, and that's a big number in itself.
Absolutely. So, in fact, I forgot to mention about her because what?
Yeah.
Imagine what people do with the kind of agency like Palak. People would buy a luxury car or gather and hoard influencers on social media. Versus what actually Palak is doing is not chasing those random aspirations, but actually changing again one heart at a time, and just looking at using her influence, using her resource to for these small children. So I think it's fantastic, and a lot of times I think this also is a cue for many people with agency, with resource. What do you do with that rather than actually splurging and spending it here and there? Imagine the number of lives, the number of children, and the kind of social impact that you can actually have. So therefore, Palak needs to be a role model because she's a playback singer. I'm sure lots and lots of we are going to get many nominations from Bollywood next year because she's going to inspire many people from Bollywood to really do something very, very similar. We could perhaps have 5 lakh hearts and lungs treated by if all these rich celebrities of our country and the richies of the country start doing what Palak is doing.
And, I was just going through one of her interviews, and I don't know if that was too long ago, but she did say that, while she's achieved this 3,000 feet, there's much more that she needs to do. There are so many other children who've reached out to her. So help is on the way, and that's what makes it all the more great. Abhinash, but what about, the first nominee, Women in Cinema Collective? Because it's a first of its kind all-woman outfit in Indian cinema, not something that we've been used to or accustomed to as a society. They've been fighting for establishment of a non-discriminatory workplace in Malayalam cinema since 2017. Of course, it came from a place of a concern post a particular incident, but it's been in the headlines ever since and perhaps has also created an impact, do you feel?
Absolutely. Look, cinema in India has been a form of storytelling. In India, you have got different forms of storytelling, and cinemas kind of influence us a lot. Probably Bollywood and Tollywood and other kind of oots that we have in India, and cricket are the most bankable kind of profession, very short-lived. But when you see a scale of this large, there's very obvious that you will have disparity, there would have issues, and especially gender issues and gender sensitive issues like this, what's been spotted out. Women in Collective, what they have tried to bring in together is to provide a voice and an agency to the minorities within the sector of cinema. And that becomes more clearer and prudent in terms of communicating the larger stories which can have ripple effects and bringing the changes. That's one. B, it is also what Bimlendu rightly suggested. It's more of a radical
Yeah.
kind of nomination or a collective, but that collective sometimes you need that radicalism. You need both spectrums to come together. Then only you need to have that voice provided. If you don't do it, I'm very surprised actually that we are celebrating this Women in Collective in
Yes.
2024, 2025. This should have
And they've made
happened
huge
right
waves.
in
Their
1940.
intervention, in fact, led to a
Exactly.
big breakthrough as far as legal understanding of
Exactly.
this case is concerned. But Vimlendu, before I go across to
Exactly.
the both of you for my favorite question of the session, quick comment, since we don't want to leave out anybody, about Tatwashil and Ashok stopping child marriages, in a locality they were coming from and really going with it full throttle. What do you make of it?
Absolutely. So you won't imagine that in 2024 there's still child marriage, but reality is that there is child marriage in various corners of our country. And here we have an example of Mr. Kamble and Mr. Tangre, where they've looked at technology, using technology and also whistleblowing work. As of course we've looked at whistleblowers for many things, but here we're talking about something as simple as catching and deterring thousands of people not to fall for this thing called child marriage. So a service called WhatsApp, a device called a basic mobile phone used for such kind of stopping such social evil by common people. And these are not techies, by the way, and there's no coding that they've done. They've actually looked at something that they always had, something that everyone has in their pocket mostly, as in they might not have a toilet, but they have a mobile phone.
And there's no misuse
Unfortunately,
of
in our
technology for
country,
a change.
absolutely, absolutely. And something simple like a WhatsApp to
Yeah.
stop something so grave and violative in terms of child marriage.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. I think
Okay,
they also
okay.
deserve.
So since you're already giving us your word, who's your best bet in this category?
Oh, again, difficult question. I think my heart goes for Adik Kadam.
Abhinash.
Again, the tough part, that's your best segment, but that's the tough part for both of us. If I can, I may be allowed to have two winners.
Sure,
Adik for
sure.
sure is one, and the second one is Munjal, because what she is doing is, this is an era where you find a lot of influencers,
Yeah.
and what Bimlandu suggested, that we influence, but again we also splurge about those influences. But that's where she's trying to bring in everything together for a cause.
So
Palak is
unknowingly capitalizing on her fame, her following, her money, and creating such a huge impact. Vimlendu, Abhinash, thank you so much for joining us with that very insightful conversation. That's all the time we have. But do not forget to vote. And yes, do stay tuned to This is Indian of the Year's Award 2024.